Hey guys, Joel's coming at you with another reasoning session, and today I'm going to be delving a bit deeper into the meanings of the words which were written on the wall of Babylon.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
Now, I've made a couple videos touching on this subject before, but if you don't know, the handwriting in the Palace of Babylon actually took place when Babylon was at its height as a world power. And the king at the time threw a great feast, and actually, you know what? I'm just going to read from the text here. Belshazzar the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords and drank wine before the 1,000. And while he tasted the wine, he commanded to bring the gold and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. Now this, of course, is all taking place after the Babylonians sieged Jerusalem and took the whole kingdom of Judah captive. And so as of this writing, all of those Israelites were in captivity in the city of Babylon. But then it goes on to say that they drank wine and praised the gods of gold and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone. Now these are the vessels that were used in service for Yahweh in the temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. And now they're celebrating their own egos, they're celebrating their own material success, but they're praising gods that are just made out of hands. They're praising gods which elsewhere in the scriptures are defined as masks, because you can't put images on divine source. Any form or any format, any definition that you give to source is a limit to the absoluteness of who source really is. But then it says, in the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another. The king cried aloud to bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers. And the king spoke and said to the wise men of Babylon, Whosoever shall read this writing, and show me the interpretation thereof, shall be clothed with scarlet, and have a chain of gold about his neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Then came in all the king's wise men, but they could not read the writing, nor make known to the king the interpretation thereof. So this was the mystery, and no one could solve the writing. But the queen said that there is a man in your kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. And in the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, was found in him, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar your father, the king, I say, your father, made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. So then Daniel was brought before Belshazzar to interpret the writing. But before he does, he contrasts the behavior of Belshazzar with his father Nebuchadnezzar. When his heart was lifted up and his mind hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him. And he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointed over it whomsoever he wills. And you, his son, O Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, though you knew all this, but have lifted yourself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before you, and you and your lords, your wives, and your concubines have drunk wine in them. And you have praised the gods of silver and gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know. And the God in whose hand your breath is, and whose are all your ways, have you not glorified. And then Daniel goes on and gives him the interpretation of these words. And this is the writing that was written. Menet, Menet, Tekel, Upharsin. And then he goes on with the interpretation, and I'm going to break down each of these words. This is the interpretation of the thing. Menet, God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Now the word Menet literally means numbered, and it comes from the term mina, which is a weight, which is approximately about 50 shekels. The total weight of this varies from time to time. Even in the Babylonian period, it was rated from 640 grams to even almost up to 1,000 grams. But the word is repeated twice in the writing on the wall, which means that it's emphasized, or that there's been a double count, that Elohim is sure, and that these days really are numbered, or considered, or reckoned. And then the next word is tekel. You are weighed in the balances and are found wanting. Now the word tekel is the Aramaic form of the Hebrew shakal, and it literally means to weigh. Tekel means weighed. And the shekel itself, like I said, was a measure of weight, approximately 11 grams. This weight varies from place to place, but in this area, it started out around that weight. And in terms of the interpretation, it means that being weighed, you're found being light. In other words, you don't hold weight. You come up vastly short. And the last word, ufarsin, means and farsin. Farsin is the plural of Peres. We read here in verse 28, Peres, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Again, the plural alludes to both the Medes and the Persians, and the word Pares literally means division, or to break in two, or to divide. It also was a measure of weight equal to half a piece, either a shekel or a mina, but literally half one of these weights. And these words are also used in the selling of grain. Like for instance, when you'd go to the merchant to buy your grain, you'd pick up your grain and they'd literally count it out. And that was the term mina. And then when you paid for it, they would weigh the coins that you were paying for, make sure, they come up nice and even. And then in weighing for them, that was the tekel, or the shekel. And then they would peres, or divide it, and give you your portion, and you would walk away with it. But what we're talking about here practically is literally what's been going on with the institutions of the day. They've literally turned their back from source and embraced a very materialistic, a very far left-leaning paradigm. And that's to say that they don't want anything to do with source, and they've embraced this form of physicality. And they're pushing this very mundane story on humanity to try and get us to conform, to quite literally just react in fear and to be programmed by whatever scare story they're telling us. But the writing literally is on the wall, and their days are numbered. They've come up vastly short. They can't really meet source on the level that source is, because source is moving forward, and everything that they've built up, this whole deck of cards, is literally coming crashing down when source comes on the scene. And literally, like it says, in that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain, and Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. And Darius, some people say, is actually an alternate name for the king Cyrus, or Koresh, the Persian king that literally came in and restored law and order, not just to the region, but sent the Hebrews back to their homeland, reinstituted the temple, reinstituted their society, and literally acknowledged source. Although he had his own definitions and his own mask, he still acknowledged an absolute source, a singular deity that manifests all things of light, all things of harmony, all things of goodness. And it's through acknowledging that we can actually step forward and manifest more of that life that we know we're here to deserve. So we're going to see this whole deck of cards come crashing down on the evil kingdom. But we have to be ready to step up and embody that kingdom of heaven that's currently invading this earth, and it's invading the earth on an individual level. If we all step up, we'll all be able to tap in, and we'll all be able to do our part in creating the pieces of the puzzle that will fit together and reveal the utopia that source is literally manifesting in this age. We were born for such a time as this, so let's reclaim our sovereignty and really be who we're here to be. Fulfill that destiny. So do your part, guys. I'm busy doing mine. I'll check you in the next reasoning sesh. Joel signing out once again. Agape, Salaam, Namaste, Shalom.